What happens when Russia dares to aim a loaded gun at a $13.3 billion American aircraft carrier? The 19th of July, 2025. Barents Sea. The guided missile destroyer USS Thomas Hudner cuts through gray swells under low Arctic skies when its Spy-16 scopes flare. A Russian destroyer, Admiral Levchenko, surges from a lazy 15 knots to 28.4 inch under a minute on a straight vector for the American line. It isn't a patrol pattern, it's a charge. 200 miles away, 4 Sukhoi Su-30 SM fighters claw into the cold air from a northern base, racks heavy with anti-irradiation and anti-hive ship weapons capable of Mach 3 strikes. Afterburners sketch orange scars across the sky as they bank toward the carrier group. Below, a Kilo-class submarine creeps at 3 knots through a torn thermocline, its machinery thumping the 12th of December eyeballs above the ambient hush, the underwater equivalent of waving a red flag. Sonar techs mark the contact, bearings tighten, the plot thickens. Then, the moment that freezes every room, Russian fire control switches from search to a hard lock on the USS Gerald R. Ford itself. 13 decks of steel and doctrine, the most advanced carrier afloat, suddenly sits in electronic crosshairs. Around her, 70-plus aircraft, 4 Aegis destroyers, and 2 nuclear submarines knit a moving fortress. Every mile inside a 300-mile bubble is watched. Within the formation, Link 16 braids E-2D Hawkeye tracks with surface plots and acoustic bearings. A single common picture blossoms. The Russians are pushing in 3 domains, but not in concert chaos wearing the mask of choreography. The Americans hold. No flinch, no panic. Only procedure and options. Because this isn't a bar fight. It's a live-wire chess match at 30 knots across air, surface, and the black below. One misread, one reflex, and history bends in minutes. Our story begins here. A lock tone over cold water, 3 converging threads, and the quiet certainty aboard the Ford that dominance can be shown without a single shot. 7:14 a.m., the 19th of July, 2025. The Barents Sea, 167 nautical miles north of Norway. Gray skies press low over 14-foot waves as the USS Thomas Hudner slices eastward. For the destroyer's crew, it is meant to be routine, another leg in the USS Gerald R. Ford Strike Group's freedom of navigation patrol, reaffirming international rights in waters Moscow claims as its own. Routine until the radar plots say otherwise, because out here, routine is fragile. And the American carrier group isn't just a patrol, it is the visible edge of U.S. maritime sovereignty. At its heart rides the Gerald R. Ford herself, 148,000 tons of steel and strategy. 13 stories high, packed with over 75 aircraft, nuclear reactors humming. She is both weapon and message. America will not be pushed from open seas. Around her, the formation tightens. 4 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, each bristling with SM-6 interceptors, Tomahawk land attack missiles, and Aegis combat systems. 2 nuclear attack submarines glide in silence, invisible hunters watching beneath. The carrier strike group is not a ship, it is a fortress stretched across miles of water. A web of sensors and weapons linked by encrypted networks, moving at light speed. Every sweep of radar, every sonar ping, every fragment of electronic chatter is captured, triangulated, and transmitted across Link 16. Pilots, ship captains, and submariners alike see the same unfolding picture. In that bubble, there are no surprises. There are only intrusions, mapped, tagged, and held at gunpoint. The Russians, in their rush, believe they are surprising a lone destroyer. What they do not yet grasp is that they are already inside a battle space, owned and controlled by the most lethal naval machine in history. And the Americans are watching, calmly, as Moscow's move plays directly into their domain. 7:21 a.m. The standoff shifts from menace to action. From Monchegorsk Air Base, 220 nautical miles southeast, 4 Su-30 SM fighters claw into the sky, afterburners blazing, their wings burdened with KH-31P anti-radiation missiles and KH-35U sea skimmers. Each is a dagger capable of Mach 3 strikes, and their vector is unmistakable. straight into the heart of the fort's 25-mile defensive ring. That ring is NATO's most sacred bubble in Arctic doctrine. Cross it, and the margin between drill and disaster narrows to seconds. 5 minutes later, the Levchenko makes its boldest move yet. Its frigate-mounted radar snaps from passive sweep to hard fire control. Beam focused, data sharpened, not at the escorts, but at the carrier herself. A 13-story floating city, $13.3 billion of steel and power, suddenly painted by a hostile lock tone. For sailors in combat information centers, it is the electronic equivalent of staring down a loaded barrel. Beneath the waves, the Kilo-class sub creeps closer, crawling through the thermocline. Its acoustic signature is textbook loud pumps, clunky motors, a sonar operator's dream. 30,000 yards away, American arrays capture every vibration. The Russians think they are weaving a coordinated assault across 3 domains: air, surface, subsurface. In truth, it is chaos, a scattered show of force already mapped and filed into American systems. By now, the Su-32nd are buzzing American decks, screaming 200 feet over the Thomas Hudner, rattling antennas and sending unsecured gear tumbling. A provocation, reckless and loud. Yet still, no launch orders come, no missiles fired. The US Navy does not flinch at noise. It responds to strategy. One question lingers. When Moscow's gamble collides with America's discipline, who blinks first? If you were standing in that command center, would you fire or hold? Press 1 for fire, 9 for hold, and let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss these turning points of modern naval power. 7:34 a.m. The order arrives like lightning through steel decks. Launch the air wing. Within moments, the flight deck of USS Gerald R. Ford becomes a metronome of precision catapults, hissing, tractors crawling, yellow shirts carving lanes through heat and steam. An F-A-18E surges, rotates, vanishes into cloud. 47 seconds later, another climbs, then another. Not a strike, not yet, but a visible promise that any shot fired will be answered in depth and at speed. Above the formation, an EY-2D Hawkeye holds at 25,000 feet. Its ANAPY-19 sweeps a cathedral of sky. Stitching returns into a single picture shared across Link 16. Tracks are tagged, friendlies blue, hostiles amber, ambiguities boxed for fighters to interrogate. In that network, the fog thins to a map that updates faster than human thought. The first blow is silent. 2 EA-18 Graham Growlers slide along the edge of the battle space and open their next-generation jammers. Russian scopes bloom with phantoms. 4 Hornets become 12, then 20. Real echoes fade, pulse, reappear somewhere else. Voice nets crackle, vectors disagree, and timing slips by heartbeats. Mechanical arrays chase ghosts. Targeting gates refuse to settle. On the destroyers, Aegis consoles remain cool. Firing solutions refined but held. Super Hornets take high cover and offset. Noses cold yet lethal. Discipline radiates across the net. Do not fire unless fired upon. The message is plain. Without a word transmitted, America will decide when this ends. What looks like restraint is actually control. The carrier has turned the battle space into a solved problem. Eyes blinded, hands hesitant, options narrowed to exit or escalation. And the Russians, still burning fuel and time, have not noticed that the board has already tipped against them. 7:41 a.m. A Russian pilot, low on fuel and riding adrenaline, snaps out of formation. His Su-30SM drops into a hot head-on pass against a patrolling Super Hornet, fast, loud, meant to bully. The American doesn't spook. He rolls inverted, drags a 6.5 G turn, and settles precisely on the Sukhoi 6. On his visor, helmet-mounted symbology frames the twin exhausts in white-hot glow. The AIM-9I tone steadies into a clean, merciless hum. One squeeze would end the duel in seconds. The squeeze never comes. Fire discipline holds. Beneath the Great Chop, a second crisis surfaces. The Kilo Lao-class submarine lifts its snorkel to breathe and charge. That sliver of steel is a beacon in water layered by thermocline. Passive arrays catch the thump of pumps. Processors knit bearing. Depth, and speed until the contact is pinned 118 feet, course 147, 3 knots. On the American console, the solution is neat and brutal. A single RUM 139C would arc, dive, and let a torpedo finish the math in under half a minute. The Kilo keeps crawling, unaware of the crosshairs drawn around it. Then the line tightens to a thread. 7:49 a.m. Admiral Levchenko's Frigate 1A abandoned search and hardlocks the USS Gerald R. Ford. For 31 long seconds, the world's most advanced carrier sits inside a Russian fiery control beam. In the Combat Direction Center, alarms flare, but voices stay level. Across the formation, firing solutions ripple and settle SM-16 and SM-12 for altitude, ESSM for the mid-layer, CRAM and CIWS for the night fight. The rule stays bright and cold. Do not fire unless fired upon. Above, growlers lace the sky with jamming ghosts, mechanical arrays, chase mirages, and lose time. The Su-32 bleed kerosene toward bingo, options shrinking with every orbit. What looks like restraint is control. What looks like a bluff is a boundary. The Russians say by beam and noise, we could. The Americans answer by silence and geometry. You won't. If it were your call at that console, would you break the stalemate or hold the line? Press 1 to strike or 9 to restrain, and drop your choice in the comments while subscribing to follow the next move. 11:24 a.m. The storm breaks in steel and thunder. From the deck of USS Gerald R. Ford, catapults ignite with relentless rhythm. In just 4 minutes, 48 combat aircraft surge into the Arctic sky, the largest single wave of American carrier power launched in the region since the Cold War. Super Hornets climb into formation. Growlers hum with jamming energy. Hawkeyes scan and stitch the horizon. To any eye below, the sky itself seems to transform into a living, mechanized storm front. Every jet is armed, fueled, and wired into Link 16. No longer dozens of aircraft, but one coordinated organism. Growlers flip their mid-band pods to full power, and Russian scopes collapse into chaos. Dozens of phantom contacts flicker in and out. Real aircraft vanish. Missile locks die without warning. Fighter pilots, stripped of reliable radar, fall back on voice calls and guesswork. Against America's network storm, they are blind. Then the low blow comes. At 2:41 p.m., the Virginia-class submarine USS New Hampshire surfaces just 6.2 nautical miles from Admiral Levchenko. Black steel erupts from the sea like a leviathan, spray cascading down her sail. Russian lookouts scramble in disbelief. For over 9 days, this hunter had shadowed them in silence, unseen, untouchable. Their sonar, their buoys, their helicopters, every tool of detection had failed. The message is unmistakable. If this were war, the Levchenko would already be gone. Overhead, American fighters do not simply patrol, they perform. Hornets roll, invert, and carve high G turns directly in sight of Russian Su-32. Outranged, outjammed, and now running on fumes, the Russian jets cannot keep up. Their antiquated mechanical radars are saturated, their fuel warnings blare. One pilot breaks off, declaring an emergency. Then another. By 3:06 p.m., 5 Su-32 disengage in unison, limping back toward Russian airspace with barely enough kerosene to reach home. The battle has shifted. America has not fired a single missile, yet the outcome is already decided. The last echoes of missile fire fade into the night, replaced by the constant mechanical rhythm of the carrier at war. The air smells of jet exhaust and burnt cordite, the deck is slick with salt spray kicked up by the evening wind. Around the island, running lights glow against the Black Sea, marking the Truman silhouette as she carves a steady course. In combat, the big screen plots are already clear of hostile tracks. Controllers cross-check the radar picture one last time, confirming the swarm has been destroyed. A few operators lean back for a breath, but only for a second. The battle rhythm doesn't slow just because the shooting stops. Every kill must be logged, every weapon expenditure tracked, every system reset for the next contact. Below decks, ordnancemen are restocking elevators with fresh warheads, tail kits, and missiles. Aviation fuels teams are topping off tanks, ready for the next launch cycle. In the hangar bay, maintainers swarm over aircraft, replacing panels, checking hydraulics, and downloading mission data. In the bomb farm, crews continue assembling munitions, knowing the next sortie could be minutes away. The air wing is still in motion. Recovery cycles bring back Hornets low on fuel, while others are spotted forward on the deck, engines warming for launch. The ship sensors never stop turning. Spy 48E and ANPQ-9B sweep the horizon for any hint of trouble. For the crew of the Truman, this is normal. A battle may end, but the war continues. The carrier's strength lies not just in the firepower it can unleash, but in its ability to reset, rearm, and relaunch without pause. Tonight's fight proved the system works from the first radar contact to the last missile intercept. And as the sea rolls on under a starless sky, the Truman